to our live stream. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Instagram. And welcome to the show. Juliet, how are you feeling today?
I'm a little bit ragey. The dog's just gone through and destroyed half my house and peed on my beard. So
super ragey.
I'm going to sell her and feed her to a freaking yowie. I tell you, that's what I'm going to do with her. So yeah, it's all good. We're good. I'm calm. I am calm. And the dog is outside.
So
oh my gosh.
Yeah. I hear you.
Oh, there we go.
It's so frustrating because we love our animals, but oh my God, why don't they just listen? But I also say the same thing about my teenagers.
Yeah, well, she's a new she is a new puppy. She's a rescue. She's about a year old. She's a Frenchie. She's a little bit whacked in the head. She's come from not a good place. But we, so we have her cage and then we have a special place outside. So we have to cage her when we go out. So she was only caged for maybe about an hour barely this morning. But she's managed to get herself out of that. And then she has gone, hell yeah, my room. And she's ripped down some of my curtains. She's ripped my curtains. So we've got blinds. Oh yeah, she has done a good old run through the entire house.
Gee, little shit.
Yeah, I know. I'm like ready to strangle her. But yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay, kill her.
I could feed it to the yowies quite happily this morning. So she's outside now. She knows she's in trouble. And she's just sitting on her bed. I pushed her bed outside because we don't normally do that. I've thrown her bed outside, threw her toys outside. I mean, you're staying outside. And she's just like, oh. So, yeah.
You little shit. Oh, my God. Kill them.
Okay, so this is not showing that it's live on Instagram.
Yeah, we are. So we're live on Instagram. We're live on YouTube. We're actually going. You just can't see it from there.
Okay, so how do I get into the messages then, Lisa? Sorry. As always, we're trying to sort out our technical stuff.
So if you jump into Instagram from Instagram from Juliet Adams Author, and then click on the live, then you'll be able to see it. And All Things Unexplained podcast has said you're literally explaining how pets become cryptids.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, by the way, I've got a new t-shirt. What do you think? I like it a lot. Nice, clean cut logo.
And I've got Indiana Jones on.
It's real cold here. It's about, oh my God, 6 degrees. I was literally just about to start the fire. I was like, oh, is it that cold? And we came from Brisbane swimming in the ocean.
Oh my God, wasn't it amazing?
In the ocean.
Far out. It was just beautiful. I did make note of the shark nets, so I was like, oh yeah, shark nets are there. They are all around us. That's good.
So hey, today we thought we'd talk drop bears and Australian cryptids, and it's actually a really awesome follow-on from what we've just done over in Brisbane, Australia. We did go in search of the elusive yowie. And we also heard some stories about bunyips, which was totally out of the blue, and super interesting, and just a really good enlightening kind of moment for us, along with Comic-Con and everything else that we went through.
What's up with the Celsius? All Things Unexplained,
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, the southern hemisphere is just goddamn freezing, and nobody likes living here.
Well, they're Fahrenheit, aren't they? So what are they Fahrenheit?
Oh yeah. Well, we were like sitting on 6 degrees Celsius, so that's like 30 degrees or 20 something Fahrenheit, and it's fucking cold. Basically, there's snow on the hills.
There's snow on the hills. Yep. Yeah. Even us, like we were in Brisbane, and a lady came up to us. She goes, "Oh, I heard it's snowing in Melbourne." I'm like, "Of course it is."
That's ridiculous.
Of course it is. And you can feel it, man. It's pretty cold here. It is pretty cold here.
Yeah. Well, we're in springtime as well, and this is the thing with the southern hemisphere, right? Springtime, you don't get those really blocked out kind of seasons that you do in the northern hemisphere. Like when you're in the States, you know it's spring, you know it's autumn.
Yeah, it's beautiful, warm. It's kind of warmish, you know. It's kind
Sure,
of,
yeah, but you get those really blocked out seasons. It's not blurry. Over here, it's super, super blurry, and you're like, am I in winter? Am I in summer? I'm not quite sure.
And you're like, it's hailing in the morning, it's 25 degrees in the afternoon, and then you have a massive thunderstorm.
Hard out. What did All Things Unexplained podcast says? Epic flooding here right now. Yeah, man, we heard.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
I've
looked at nothing.
Dr. Mounts from All Things Unexplained podcast. Where do you live in the States? What state are you in?
Oh, and Kelsey's with us. Hi,
Kelsey. Hey, girl. We're just waiting for some other people to come join us. We're going to get into drop bears, which we've been trying to get into for like 2 weeks. Right?
And just letting you know, I don't know, but my Instagram's probably about a minute or so behind that. It's popping up. North Carolina, he said. So yeah, so maybe 30 seconds. So there is a little bit of a thing. So if you put a question up, and we don't answer it straight away. It's like, yeah, I've got a little bit of a lag on my.
I think you're slow, Juliet. Everything else is good. Okay. Juliet's just a bit slow. North Carolina, very cool. Not cool if there's too much flooding. Stay safe over there too, because flooding is not fun and it's super dangerous. We know we've been flooded out a few times now. So
we pretty much lost our entire household to a flood.
Numerous times.
We understand. I lost all my paintings and stuff that I'd gathered from around the world, and we pretty much had nothing. So that was down in Picton, New Zealand.
Hey, so we went to Brisbane and we went up to a place called Kilcoy, and we're actually going to do a little video on it. We did a couple of live streams. We'll get our beautiful friend Ash over in Egypt to edit some video footage and some pictures and bits and pieces. And we had some really interesting things happen up there as far as finding yowies. We didn't get into the bush, unfortunately. It was one of the things that we wanted to do. But honestly, we didn't realize how bloody flat everything was.
Yeah.
We kind of figured we'd go out there and we'd go straight into bushland, right? It would be trees and bush and that sort of stuff. It was literally flat grassland with trees, a couple of trees here and there, and then it was another drive for about an hour to get to the hill range, and we were just like
where we wanted to go. So
yeah, we didn't get enough time to get into the bush itself, which was a real bugger. But what we did do is we went to Kilcoy and we checked out the statue that was carved out of one giant big log, huge tree log, of the original encounter that happened in Kilcoy from a couple of hunters and their yowie sighting. Anyway, so we're looking at the statue going, he doesn't look quite right. He's huge. He's like 8 foot. So he's massive, but he just looked a bit odd, right? We were like, that doesn't really look like the descriptions and the things that from
the original, from what we heard about the original kind of
like from all of the encounters across Australia, it just didn't quite resonate, didn't look right. And we're expecting fangs and we're expecting claws and it just looked like a dude standing on the
hairy dude.
Yeah. And so we had a bit of a look around and stuff. We actually met a lady called Julie in the art, in one of the art galleries, and she was fantastic, and she told us such an interesting story about a UFO that happened kind of around that area. And you know what? We were filming, and I checked that we were filming.
We both were like looking, yep, it's filming.
Make sure. She was happy to go live on camera and video record and stuff. We got outside and I went, oh, cool, let's check it out. And I had 5 seconds of that recording. 5 seconds. So obviously something did not want us.
And just to add that, Kelsey's just saying, she goes, I didn't get to see a lot of the live as it abruptly ended. Maybe we would end up talking to ourselves. Oh, how long did it last for, Kelsey? Because we were talking for a while.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
There's
we had
that,
we
and
definitely had some dark spots, and this is, you know,
yeah.
it was a discussion that we had afterwards. It was like, there's some really weird stuff going on in the town, and yeah, well, it was almost like you walk, and it was almost like you're walking through a doorway, and all of a sudden you're like, "Yikes, what is that?" You know, the cameras went black. It was just, yeah, you're like filming,
Yeah.
you're trying to zoom, all of a sudden everything would go black, things would cut off. But yeah, it was just a little bit odd. It was, yeah, we've got to say, like, I mean, we couldn't pin it down to anything in particular, but
It was just there was something spiritual, supernatural, or some sort of
something going on there.
energy
Yeah,
there
yeah. And like
that,
we've heard nothing really in this town apart from kind of like the yowies. I suppose there is a bit of you know, a few ghost stories and that kind of stuff that come out of that area. But
it's very much a country town, right? There's what,
yeah,
like 2,000 people that live there. It's a small rural township, and it's beautiful, and the
yeah. And
people
all
do
the locals were really cool. Lisa tried stealing some tradies' lunch, poor bugger. We got a bit lost.
I
And
did.
she was like, "Have you got any lunch left?" So no, they were really awesome. Like, yeah, all the people that we met there from Kilcoy were just absolutely beautiful people, really friendly.
Yeah, it was
Honestly, and
really
well, yeah, into kind of like the cryptid stuff. You know, we were talking about, yes, we would love to go back there and spend at least 3 or 4 days there. Go to Sandy Bay, isn't it? Where
Sandy Creek.
Sandy Creek, with the original Yowie sighting, one of the first Yowie sightings there. And then we found out there was an author there who's also written books, like kids' books about Yowie. So we would have loved to have found him and spoken to him.
Yeah.
It was just, yeah, it was a really, yeah, really, really lovely people, just a really cute country town. And
But some really interesting supernatural stuff going on, right?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
initially,
yeah.
when we drove there, we were pulled to go down this dodgy little creek, right?
Little
we were,
road,
I
just a
was
little
like,
road.
let's go down the creek road. And Juliet was like, nope, we're not. And I was like, come on, there's something down there. And she was like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, yeah. Please
Um,
leave that. No.
no. And I was like, yeah. And so I feel like the whole day around that area, we were pulled to go to different places. And we knew we wanted to go up to this ridge line. And we actually ended up going into the information center where we met a really cool guy called David, who was from
Oh,
England.
David was the man. Thank
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
David, from the information center at Kilcoy. And
100%. And what did we find there, Juliet? What did we find in
what
the
do we
information center?
well, we're sitting there chatting to him. We're like, hey, where would we go? Who would we speak to? You know, re Yowies. And he started laughing. He's like, really? We're like, yeah, yeah. So we started talking to him. He goes, oh, do you want to see the original Yowie statue? We've got the bust. And we're both like, say what? And he literally went, yeah, it's just out the back here. And he took us out the back. And there was like the bust of, you know, from the original Yowie statue that was actually made out of the wood. And what we did find out is that the Yowie that we thought was made out of wood that we took photos of, which is the new statue, is actually fiberglass. And we're like,
And it's the third.
no way. And it's the third. So never did we realize that the bust of the original was in the information center. We never found that anywhere. We never knew about the second one. So it was really interesting to, you know, to have like that little bit of extra knowledge there to go and be like, hey, do you want to go and see the original one? And boy, wasn't that different. Like, it was twice the size, like the bust, like it literally looked like what people explain about how big they are. It had no neck and, you know, broad shoulders, big head,
huge forehead, really wide nose, giant lips.
huge lips. And that's a big thing here, isn't it? They say that the Yowies have like these really big lips. And it was amazing. Like, we got
covered in fur.
and covered in fur. Yeah.
And literally like twice the width of me almost.
Oh my God, it was
huge.
And
it
it's
was in this,
weird. You're like, oh my God. So the original was like, he said he made it to like the size, isn't it? And you're just like, man, imagine this thing coming at you, and you're like, far out.
100%. And we kind of, once we saw this carving, this giant wood head and shoulders. We went, oh my God, that statue would have stood like 10 foot.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
was massive, right? And wide, and yeah, it was just absolutely giant in this plexiglass box. And we were like, David, that's a yowie. Like, that's a yowie. That is what we expected to see from all of the descriptions and the encounters and all and the sightings and everything. That is what we were expecting to see. And that was just such a wonderful moment, right?
Yeah, it was very cool. We were just not expecting that at all. And then he told us, God, I cannot remember the guy's name. But he was talking about how another investigator had come in. He's a well-known Australian guy from the Yowie.
No, we think it's I can't remember his name either, but he's from Melbourne, and he works with Dave and the Yowie Research Association.
Yeah. So he'd come up there and taking photos. So he's investigated that whole area and got stories and stuff.
And there is a really great documentary, if you are interested in Kilcoy and Yowies, there's a great documentary by a production team called Shiver, and you can find those on YouTube. Just go onto Shiver, onto YouTube, and it's got a whole heap of docos on there, and one of those is about the Yowie, and it's actually really, really well done. It's got some really good encounters and some interviewees from around the space and around the countryside there that have had other encounters as well. And yeah, it was really, really interesting, and I think that was a real eye-opener as far as cryptids in Australia goes.
Yeah. So no, it was definitely a highlight. I mean, we were like two little kids. We were so excited to get there. We were like, hey, we finally made it. We've been wanting to go there for how many years? Just like it's just
totally. And then we bought out everything that David had in the information center, and he was like, oh, okay, I have to of this down. So yeah, we spent
the only thing I have on me right now is the little Yowie.
Yeah, little Yowies. We spent about $200 on memorabilia, and he was just like, "Oh my goodness, this is the biggest sale!"
Like we got T-shirts for all the kids, and
and that was great. Hey, it was so good.
Yeah. So no, it was very, very cool. It was like the coolest. So
and looking forward to going back there and staying a couple of nights, like Juliet said, staying a couple of nights and actually getting into the bush. I think we were both a bit gutted that we didn't make it into the bush because that's kind of what we wanted to do, but we just didn't realize the distance between things. And that's what happens sometimes, you know, it's like best laid plans and then it just doesn't come to fruition. And maybe there was something there saying you're not able to do that right now. And it's interesting because we also a couple of days afterwards we met an Uber driver called Steve, who we love, who is an Aboriginal Murray from the area, and he was telling us some stories about bunyips, but he said, you know, they show themselves to you when you need to see them. And after kind of talking to him about his stories and his experiences, it really dawned on me that, in fact, that is cryptozoology, paranormal, paracryptozoology. These things can be biological, but they can also be
spiritual,
interdimensional, paranormal, spiritual beings that show themselves to you when you need to see them, elementals almost. So, yeah, that kind of resonated with me.
Yeah, and he, we gave him a card, and he said he would love to speak to us, and kind of share some of his stories and stuff with us. So, so we're really hoping like we'll keep contact. And he was just an amazing soul. You could just feel it,
absolutely. And you know, we can't share his stories with you about the bunyips that he told us, but it really kind of showed us that these creatures are real. These creatures have been seen, and it's not just you know, it's so easy to, when you research, it's so easy to just take the English or the colonialized viewings or sightings and the versions of those without digging a little bit deeper and going, how far back does this go? And then when you speak to one of the tribe people or elders or indigenous people of the land, they then say, oh, look, we got heaps of stories. This is a real thing. This has been going on forever. and talking to him, that really kind of hit it home, that these creatures, these spiritual entities that we call cryptids, are real and have been around for many, many years, much longer than we have. And they show themselves to those people that need to see them, or that they need to be, showing to. So yeah, really, really interesting. And hopefully we get to speak to Steve again. We've asked him to have a phone call with us and tell us a few more stories.
And it's more for us. Like we find this with a lot of Aboriginal people. They're very weary about sharing their stories, and sometimes it's just not fair, and that is absolutely okay, and we respect that. But, we kind of asked them to help us understand, so we can put out the right information. And because like Lisa said, we're guessing half the time. We're getting this information, we're going, okay, cool, this is our understanding of it. But coming from a person that, like a native person from the land, from the Aboriginals, it would just be such a great way for us to understand.
And he lives it. He lives it and breathes it, and it's really important to him that he shows it in the right light and gets it across correctly. And we're on the same boat with him, and that's what we said to Steve. We were like, we want to make sure that we have a pure understanding of what this looks like, and what the culture and everything else lks like around it, because we're from New Zealand. We understand the Māori side, we understand the New Zealand,
because it's a lot more open, isn't it? The Maori culture, it's very out there. You can find information, you can talk to Maori elders and stuff. Whereas here, the Aboriginal people are a lot more reserved, a lot more, to protect themselves as well. It's you can understand they've just gone through absolute hell. So
but also in the same breath, when you grow up in New Zealand, you learn through the schooling system. The moment you go to school is the moment you start learning the Māori language, the Māori culture. We all use poi, we all use taiha.
We all stay on marais. It's just
you do porphyries, which are the songs and the welcomes onto different meeting places. We understand the culture really, really well, and we are raised in a respectful space that this is their land, and we're allowed to live on it. We're all allowed to live on it, and they're the caretakers of the land. And it's different in Australia. They don't grow up with that, and I think that is one of the main differences in our understanding of the Māori culture, and all of the things that come with that amazing culture. We don't understand that with the Aboriginal culture, but we desperately want to, right? So that we can pay homage and respect and show it in the right light in this really amazing, culture that is like just phenomenal.
I'll just go back through a couple of the messages. Casey said she was on for quite a while. She said she even tried finding us again, but our page went inactive. So we thank you for letting us know. And she also said you two belong together as a duo. There was so much connection. I know, we were both like dickheads, basically.
Oh, so good. So it's 2.5 years since we've been together. So it's
And she said, wonder where Peter Jackson got his inspiration for orcs and cave trolls. Yeah, I know. Around the world, though, I mean, it's just crazy. And she said, funny you should mention bunyips. When she went to spend the day with her sister for her birthday, she said her partner was a bunyip in the flats as a joke and had a laugh about it. Oh, yeah. So, Ganfield Files podcast is also watching. Hey, how's it going?
Ganfield Files.
Everything's like getting a little bit slow, but also, just this thing, like we ran out of time, but like Lisa and I were literally probably about 5 hours sleep a night. we were not in bed before midnight every night. We were up at the crack of dawn because our kids were calling us and grandkids were calling us.
Yeah.
And you're like, can I speak to you? And you're like, sure, okay. It was like, man, we just didn't stop, and we're still kind of recovering now. It's going to take me about a week to recover. because I still didn't get to bed until really late last night, and then I was up at the crack of dawn again this morning. But no, it was, it was a really good learning process for us too, and trying to get interviews and just speaking to people. But I think we were just more excited about being together and just, like we're saying, and like Kelsey said, we feed off of each other's energy, and it's just so much, just so much fun. So
and honestly, like I think this trip, the more trips we get to do together and go on adventures and this sort of stuff really spurs on the motivation to push forward with Cryptid Women's Society and build this amazing community and get all of these phenomenal women that we already have as members, but also these women that we've just met that are just so keen on joining the party. And, women from all around the world will make this a global movement and turn it into something phenomenal, which will be so exciting.
It was funny at Comic-Con. We're looking through all the stalls, we're going through, and we're like, we've got to find some cryptids, and we eventually did find some cryptids, and this amazing lady called Rebecca. Oh my God, hi Rebecca. I can't remember the name of the business, but we'll put you up there. And she was just the coolest. So she had a Wednesday tattoo on her leg. She was cool, and she had like Mothman and Bunyips, and
I brought home a Mothman air freshener for my car. And oh, good. Oh, good.
I did the same to Kate. I'm like, here we go. Here's a keychain. She's like, great.
Yowies. Yowies and Mothman. Okay, hey, but right now we are finally going to talk about drop bears. I feel like the universe has been stopping us.
All right, maybe we're going to have a rogue drop bear attack or
drop
something.
Bears. Hey, so funny story. For everyone that doesn't know what a drop bear is, I'm just going to tell you the story that my kids came home with, and then Juliet can tell you about drop bears, okay? Right on. So when my 18-year-old kids, back when they were at college, they were like, must have been 13, I think, was their age. They went on camp, right? And they go down to like the South Island on a boat and the ferry and all this sort of stuff. It's a really, really big trip that they go on, and they stayed somewhere like Teapot Valley or something like that, right? And they came back and were like, Lisa, do you know? They call me Lisa because I'm stepmom, by the way. Lisa, do you know about the drop bears? And I went, no, because this was given 5 years ago or whatever, right? So I didn't really know about drop bears. I said, no. They're like, there were drop bears in the forest next to where we stayed. And I was like, what's a drop bear? And they told me that they were these bears that dropped from the branches and would jump on them and try and eat them. And I was like, oh my God, that's really bloody scary. I was like, was there a health and safety policy in place? Seriously. And they're like, no, the teachers were telling us about the drop bears, and there's drop bears in the forest, so we have to be really, really careful. And so that was the first time I'd actually ever heard about drop bears. And I went along with it, and I was like, well, obviously dangerous. Like, I'm really glad you didn't go out at nighttime by yourselves. Anyway, so I was like, drop bears. And then all of a sudden, drop bears started coming into my kind of range once we started Cryptid Women's Society. And I was like, interesting. So I just start you off with that little tidbit. It's in New Zealand. The legend is everywhere.
So it's awesome. Drop bears in New Zealand. That cracks me up. Yeah. So let's just run through a few things. Are drop bears real? Well, they're like cryptids, I suppose. So we just don't know.
I've got some evidence to back it up too.
I've gone down the track of so if drop bears are real, what are their characteristics and how can we avoid them? Okay, so when you're hiking through the forest in Australia, they do have a little taste for tourists, so they tend to go for the tourists first. So they tend to leave the locals alone because we know how to get rid of them. So the deal about the drop bear is basically the folklore and stuff. So we all have these little urban legends. So the drop bears are like the cousins to the koalas. They have very big long claws and very big long fangs, and they have a taste for blood. So you've got to be really, really careful here in the Australian bush. They have expert timing, so they basically wait up in the trees for you, And like they're saying, the tourists are pretty vulnerable to these because they don't understand. So you don't really walk under trees. And basically, they will just drop onto you and attack you and rip your throat out. So, yeah. So if you see one on the ground and they're ready to charge, just run like hell because they can sprint, but they can't run for that long. So they're just, yeah. But if they're coming from above, you're kind of in trouble.
What do they look like, Juliet?
Koalas. They look like koalas. They look like cute little koalas with little fluffy ears and little fluffy bellies. But they have big fangs and claws, you know, so they're just like, argh. So meat-eating koalas.
Yes. Oh, they're so cute and yet so zombie-like.
So zombie-like. Yep. So like the biggest repellent of drop beers is our Vegemite. Okay, so Australian Vegemite. So I don't know if you guys have seen this. So it's like a brown, like yeasty paste that you put on your toast here. It's absolutely amazing. Love it.
Delicious.
So what you do is you just rub it all over your face and it repels drop beers. So we do have some photos. We've got a little skit coming up. So you rub it in.
Is there a certain areas that you should apply the
Oh yeah, definitely to like your face and stuff. You can kind of do commando style and do some stripes where you can just cover it all over and stuff like that. Yeah. So, you know, if you really want to get real crazy, you can put it on your arms and that kind of stuff. So, but there's also the umbrella method. You can have an umbrella, but this tends to kind of annoy the drop beers. And also in certain areas, umbrellas can attract hoop snakes. So we've got to be very careful of hoop snakes.
What's a hoop snake?
Okay, right. So our hoop snake is basically the snake that bites its own tail. And so it's in a hoop. And so when it chases you, it can roll really, really, really fast. And it basically grabs you. So the very term drop beer derived from the ancient Aboriginal word means head muncher. So you can also wear a helmet if you like, smear that in thick Vegemite, but just staying out of drop beer areas would probably be that'd be the best thing. They're saying that fatalities have occurred in all major cities in Australia. In Melbourne alone, during the summer of 1984, there are a staggering 15,000 drop beer killings.
Jesus! That's not nothing.
So the reason they reckon that mostly Australians are not attacked by the drop beer is because we eat Vegemite and we apparently, we sweat it out.
And that's why, that you stink, and that's why they go after tourists because they
don't smell like Vegemite, and a lot of tourists don't like our Vegemite. I don't understand that. Another one is putting on a cork hat and walking through the bush singing Waltzing Matilda. So
how does that go? How does that go?
Waltzing Matilda. So look up Waltzing Matilda. We'll have to put that song on for you.
How does that go?
No more. Okay, so here I have a true story of a drop beer attack. All right, just 2 months ago. So it was kind of drop beer / koala, but I had to put the story on because honestly, it's about penis now. Just 2 months ago, walking home from a big night out about 1 a.m., I was confronted by an Indian taxi driver with his hazard lights on, screaming for assistance to move a drop beer. It was a / koala. It was in the roadway, looking quite vicious. Me being from the country and very pissed, I decided to pick up the drop beer and look after the critter. What unfolded was quite surreal. On arriving at my unit / his house, the beer was so tightly attached to my arm, I could feel its claws biting into it. I tried to remove the said beer, but had zero chance being heavily under the influence of Shiraz. Since it was a cold winter's night, I decided to crash into the bed with the beer still attached. I was awakened at 5 a.m. with a strange noise, only to find the bear trying to climb up the bedroom drapes, ripping the water out. Being a lot more sober, I gently picked up the bear and relocated him to the bush outside. So this gentleman had a very close encounter of what could have been a terrible attack.
A very fluffy, cuddly bear. I want to sleep with you and cuddle you.
Yeah.
Oh,
so, and then there's also there is a video out there of a reporter coming over to have a drop bear encounter. So we will attach that. We've seen that one. So she's basically dressed in like full battle gear, like a like a police, like helmet, like padding, and just And they basically handed her a koala, and this poor woman was just like, she was so terrified she was going to get this drop bear handed to her. So, but I mean, that's it. It's urban legends. It's really funny, but who knows? There could be drop bears out there, and they can be quite. People see these koalas and they're really cute, but they can actually be quite vicious. It's like kiwis. People like kiwi birds are so cute, but those little mother effers are little and they're actually really nasty.
Yeah, they're right.
No wonder they became extinct almost. So people keep eating them.
Yeah. Well, hard out, and that's what we were telling someone. One of our friends in Australia about cryptids the other day, right? When we were over there, and he was saying, in New Zealand you've got the moa, which was 3 foot. Well, sorry, I beg your pardon, 3 meters
high,
tall, giant emu bird things. And we're like, well, yeah, there's the moa, but then there's the haast eagle, which was bigger than the moa and would fly down and grab it on its back with its talons, lift it up into the sky and drop it from hundreds of meters high, kill it on the ground, and then eat it. And he was just like,
we're like, what?
And that was a real thing, yeah.
Yeah, those were real. Our moas were big, but the eagles were bigger.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of eagles, oh my God, driving up to Kilcoy, poor Lisa had her first experience with a wedge-tailed eagle. Not my first experience, but these things are massive. And she's like, oh my God, it was literally sitting on the side of the road on one of the banisters on the side of the road. And he was a big boy. He was absolutely stunning. They also have a really bad attitude and have been known to take down hang gliders and attack hang gliders. And drones and just anything in general. Like all Australian wildlife here, they're a little bit nasty. But no, these things are massive, absolutely massive.
And he was beautiful. He was just sitting there, huge, giant eagle, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and as we drove past, he literally turned around and was like, hey, and we're like,
I was squishy with my car.
Yeah, he didn't fly up. He was just like, yep, they're going past, and he was pretty comfortable with all the cars going past. So
I can't wait to go to America and see some of the eagles over there and the birds and stuff, because they're so enormous in comparison, right, to what we've got. So it's going to be great, yeah. Are you reading comments?
Yeah, I'm just trying to read something. They've just only just popped up now. So, ordinary little doodle. Flynn Hills Paranormal. Sorry, just trying to read it. Have my glasses on. The Snake of Infinity. Yes, it is the Snake of Infinity. Yeah, look up hoop snakes. We've got a couple of little things going up about hoop snakes as well. It's pretty funny. Another. Urban legend. I think they're in the States and stuff like that as well. I think there's something similar, like the hoop snakes. Hoop snake. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Oh, very cool. Hey, well, I've got a little bit of information on koalas, and coming from like an actual, real scientific perspective, not a cryptid supernatural perspective. Did you know koala bears can live from 10 to 12 years in the wild?
Yeah, they don't live very long.
Yeah, but females can live up to 18 years.
It's because girls are smarter.
Girls are smarter. And this is probably the reason why chlamydia is the most threatening thing to koala populations across Australia. Chlamydia.
My question is, how did they get chlamydia in the first place? Just like, in New Zealand, we have our sheep, but our sheep don't have chlamydia.
Wait, hang on, I've got more information. It's a major cause of the rapid. Oh, sorry, hang on, wait. Sorry, so I'll read this whole thing to you actually because it's quite funny. Chlamydia is a major threat to koala populations across Australia. Chlamydia is a STD, sexually transmitted disease.
Yeah.
This bacterial disease infects between 20 and 90% of individuals in koala populations. It's a major cause of the rapid decline in many wild populations, particularly in southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales. What's going on there, guys? just pointing that out, okay?
Oh dear.
And the other thing is koalas can sleep up to a whopping 20 hours each day. When would they find time?
Yeah.
When would they find time? Someone is sneaking in there and something dodgy.
Yeah, no, I did. I had a lovely Australian gentleman coming in, being a little bit. We have lovely Australians here, and he came in and was like, "Oh, you sheep shaggers," and rah 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 rah, blah blah blah. And I literally like it. Just this kind of conversation just kind of went on and on. He was just being like that, an Australian male. And I just literally turned around to him and said, "Well, tell me exactly, how did all your koalas get chlamydia?" Oh my God, his face. He's like, I said, "It's a human disease." I said, "Leave the koalas alone." So yeah, he was like a little bit taken back. So
those very little bears.
He can give it, but he can't take it.
Yeah, well, someone's taking it, but it's not him. Okay, move right along. Okay, so.
Oh, funny.
So I wanted to talk about just some of the Aboriginal legends and beliefs around koalas, because the urban legend on the other side of that is a drop bear being a rampant, brain-eating, beautiful teddy bear, but the koalas are a really important part of Aboriginal culture. So this is from a website called martinfisher.com, and I'm just going to read you a little bit because it's actually really, really interesting, and it goes into a bit of a legend about a koala and how he came to be and how these legends came to be around koalas. So the koala is such an important part of the Aboriginal culture that they are associated closely to the Aboriginal ancestral beliefs. They're also featured frequently in Aboriginal arts and Dreamtime legends. And I'm going to screw up some of these Aboriginal names. And Juliet, feel free to jump in if you actually know what these are, because you live in Aussie and you probably
Okay.
Possibly not. So the Tharawal tribe believed that the koalas helped row the boat that brought them to the continent. Another myth tells of how a tribe killed a koala and used its long intestines to make a bridge for people from other parts of the world.
I've heard that one.
Yeah, and so that feeds into the cradle of life in Australia. Tribes in both Queensland and Victoria see the koala as a wise animal and sought its advice.
Yep.
The story of Koobor, Koobor, the koala boy, is perhaps one of the most well-known legends of the first koala. The story goes, there was once a young boy named Koobor whose parents died and who was left in charge of his aunt and uncle. Australia was a dry land at the time and water was hard to come by, but his greedy aunt and uncle would not share their water with him and forbade him to drink the water that they had collected from the creek. Whenever they left the hut, they would hide the water vessels so that Koobor would not be able to find them. Whenever he was very thirsty, Koobor was forced to eat eucalyptus leaves like a koala. One day, his aunt and uncle went off into the bush for the day to hunt for food. They unintentionally left their water vessels in a place where Koobor could reach them. As soon as they were out of sight, Koobor excitedly took the opportunity to drink. However, after thinking of what might happen when his aunt and uncle returned, Koobor was afraid. He then took some full vessels and hung them among the branches of a small tree. After that, he climbed into the tree himself and began to sing an ancient song, a spell. To his surprise, the tree began to grow taller and taller until he was high above the forest floor. At dusk, his aunt and uncle returned, tired and thirsty. They immediately looked for their water vessels, but the water vessels were nowhere to be seen. Then they saw Kubor sitting in the tree with the water vessels beside him. They spoke gently to Kubor, telling him that they were sorry that they had treated him badly. They promised him that if he would come down and bring the water with him, they would be kind to him. Kubor believed them and made his way down to the ground. Silly boy. As soon as Kubor, silly boy, as soon as Kubor reached the ground, his aunt and uncle immediately beat him with sticks and stones. They kept beating him until Kubor's body became quite soft. Seemingly mad with anger, they continued to beat him until at last something strange happened. Kubor's body began to change. He became shorter, stockier, and covered with soft fur. He became a koala. He ran up the tree again, much quicker, as he now had sharp claws far out of his tormentor's reach. His aunt and uncle began to chop the tree down, hacking away until it crashed to the ground, spilling the water vessels as it did so. The water poured down, flooding across the forest floor as a mighty creek, drowning the aunt and uncle as the koala boy jumped off and disappeared forever into the night.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, right? It says since that time, the Aborigines are forbidden to break the koala's bones when they kill it. So they can kill it and eat the animal, but they are not allowed to break its bones. Though they may eat the animal, they may not skin it, and they must always treat its body with respect. However, the koalas were still hunted for food by Aboriginals. A common technique used to capture a koala was to attach a loop, maybe a hoop snake, of ropey bark at the end of a long, thin pole, forming a noose, and this would be used to snare the animal and pull him down. According to customs of some tribes, the head of a koala is especially sacred and would be saved for burial. So they would bury it. And there's one more wee story, and it contains a bunyip. Do you want to hear it?
Oh, yeah, go the bunyips. Do people know what a bunyip is? Explain what a bunyip is, Lisa.
Well, a bunyip is, well, I see it as a supernatural creature that can then turn into a biological creature. It inhabits billabongs and riverways.
It's a water-dwelling creature.
Yeah, we don't really have lakes in Australia, but, a bit smaller than a lake is a billabong. And basically, there's so many different descriptions of it, right? A cat, a giant cat with fangs, like a saber-toothed tiger that has feathers on it, that has the body of a seal and flippers, and it shows what it wants to show.
Yeah, and like from a scientific point of view, because like many forests and many jungles around the world, there's still areas that people haven't really explored, and one of the ideas is that it is what's it called? It's an extinct giant wombat, so called a diprotodon, which was apparently that lurked through the waters about 20,000 years ago. So the description that people are given when they said they've seen a bunyip matches this extinct wombat, and they were very big. They were very, very big. So it's really interesting to go, okay, it's like we say, are there still living dinosaurs? Are there still living creatures? Are there still mammoths? This kind of stuff. So is this what people have seen? Because these date back hundreds of years, thousands of years in the Aboriginal lore. Is this kind of what they're saying? So that's scientific kind of.
And we know that there are caving systems that run under these waterways. Waterways, I beg your pardon, and quite easily these water-dwelling creatures could quite easily use those caving systems and those tunnels to get around, right?
Yeah.
That is not difficult. Well, let me read you the story. It's about a drop bear, or a koala and a bunyip. One time, a koala and a fabled bunyip were close friends. None of the other koalas approved of this friendship that existed between one form of their race and a bunyip. The bunyip, a dangerous creature of the swamps, was hated, but the koalas were loved for their gentleness. However, because of this friendship, the koala became reckless and mean-spirited. She would follow the bunyip everywhere, disturbing and hurting humans as well as other animals. So you can see how the bunyip was seen back in those days in these stories. Because of this, the koalas were worried that their security would be endangered. Even then, they were aware of the familiar advice: choose your friends wisely, and the bunyip was not a wise choice for a friend. But the erring koala took no notice of their worries. Another cause of their worry was that this koala had a child. She left her young one unattended while she philandered with the bunyip.
Philandering bunyips and koalas.
Bloody philandering. In their desperate attempt to get their friend back, the koalas decided to call the guardian spirit. The spirit came, and when the koala again went up to the mountain, leaving her young one unprotected, the spirit held the child as other koalas waited for her return. When the koala returned, the spirit made her child spring upon her back and cling there night and day so that the mother could not freely come and go from her tribe and fraternize with the bunyip as before.
Fraternizing with bunyips. Bloody hell.
I've been to a koala twice to stop
Tactical Bigfoot's on. Hello from New York. Hello. Hello from Melbourne.
The young one clung tightly to its mother and she could not shake it off. In her attempt to escape, the mother roughly... That's right, I like this one. Okay. In her attempt to escape, the mother roughly smeared her child's face with pipe clay, and the child cried as the pipe clay hurt its eyes. The rest of her tribe punished her for this because it was of their belief that no mother should harm their child. The ancient law decreed that should a mother ever needed to punish her child, she must first pray and ask the ancestors forgiveness. However, even with pains in its eyes and pipe clay all over its face, her child still clung to her. To this day, it is said all young koalas cling to their mother's back, and the mothers are so hampered physically that they never move far from the spot that they were born, and thus the mother could never see the bunyip again.
Oh, wow. That's so good. You can kind of read into that of, warnings for, it's like the saying, it's like you don't go down, the whole thing about the bunyips is saying you don't go down to the creeks and the rivers by yourself, and all this kind of stuff. And, and that's it, mothers need to look after the children. So, yeah, it's really interesting. So that's quite a cool story.
Yeah. And also the other thing I wanted to mention was other Aboriginal groups, and we know that Australia is so big, and there's over 250 different Aboriginal tribes. It's massive in Australia, to put it into perspective. It says here other Aboriginal groups associate the koala with rain and drought. Those stories of the drought maker or rain controlling koala figures. The legendary Kubor of southeast Queensland, which we just read, is said to possess special powers over rainfall, demonstrating the koala's symbolic relationship to one of the nature's most precious and vital elements. It says when the usually sleepy Kubor becomes active, it is seen as an omen that drought is coming. So really interesting. So there's so much more to just, that's just a story, or that's just a story. There's always a deeper connection, connecting to the earth and those important, vital elements that we need to live and survive.
Yeah. So there's a few other like cryptids that are kind of seen around the Australian bush. We have the Otterways panther. This is here in Victoria. So the jury's still kind of out on this. It's like, again, like around the world, we have sightings of black panthers and stuff here. So that's kind of basically what this thing is, like these giant black panthers that are here. They call them alien big cats here. So not as in they're an alien, but they're alien to this area. So they call them alien big cats, and there's a lot of study, a lot of photographs and stuff. Lisa and I discussed this. One of the places that we went to in Ballarat, the owner of Cryle Castle had 3 big cats, and one of them disappeared, which was a big black cat, big black panther. We had the Hawkesbury River monster in New South Wales. So this is basically a little bit like the Loch Ness monster. It's a bit like Nessie. They also call him the Mully Ewonk or the Mully Wonk or something like this. So
is he the giant photo of that big giant thing underneath the water?
Yeah, with kind of like a big eely neck and stuff like that. So very, very Loch Ness monster looking. So the Yaramayahu has a good one. So we'll put out little pictures of these. So he's like a little vampire goblin frog or little mini kind of like little monkey man. He's generally kind of like a red color. They say he's kind of like a red color. He's called the outback vampire. So he's been in Aboriginal mythology since the beginning. So again, it's like this weird, like little kind of creature, and he's got like little suckers on his hands. So that's why they say he's kind of like frog-like, and
he's kind of like a little goblin, right? He's kind
of But he also likes to devour human flesh.
100%. And he likes to hang out in fig trees, which I kind of want to hang out with him because I love fig trees also. Hey, do you know the story of him, Juliet?
There's like a little thing. Go on, you've got a little thing there for it?
Yeah, I got a little thing.
Go on, do your little
thing. According to the legend, the creature resembles a little red frog-like man with a very big head, a large mouth, no teeth, suckers on the ends of his hands and his feet. The Yaramayahu is said to live in fig trees, and instead of hunting for food, it basically waits for an unsuspecting traveler to fall asleep underneath the big leaves because it gets so hot. A fig tree is the perfect place to relax because it's got huge leaves, right? The creature drops down on top of its victim, gets its little suckers on, and sucks him dry. Literally sucks all the blood out. But then this is the best part. After he's done that, he swallows the person whole, and then he regurgitates it and spews him up. And that is what gives the victim his red color and also him his red color. It's so fucked.
And sometimes when you're thrown up, you can still be alive, so you can still escape. So it's
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So apparently it only hunts during the daytime. So once you're good, you're good.
Yeah. So Tactical Bigfoot says, what is the temperature range for the water monster like Nessie? No idea. I mean, it's in like New South Wales, so I would say it would be like at the warmer end. It won't be. There's no way it'd be as cold as Loch Ness in any way, shape, or form.
No, not even comparable. Because
I mean, this creature's been seen since the first sightings of this thing was right back in like the very beginning of the 1800s. Like I think it was like 1801 or something was the very first sighting of this creature. So that is kind of like something. So he's a bit like, Loch Ness and Champ and that kind of stuff. So so these lakes would definitely be a lot warmer. I mean, they do, they'll have the water coming from the mountain ranges, so they'll be a bit chillier. But
still, I mean, like you're still sitting in like kind of 35-degree temperature. So
like the further north you go, the warmer it is. But there is kind of they do get snow up in the mountains and stuff there. So really,
I mean, there are, like are we talking bunyips? Is that what we're talking about?
No. The Hawkesbury River monster.
I beg your pardon. Sorry.
Yeah, the Molly Wonk. The Molly, it's got MOOLYEWONK. So it's like the Molly Ewonk or something like that.
Molly Wonk.
So they call it the Riverside Renegade. So it's grey with a large eel-like body, elongated head, the four flippers, and a really thick tail. So very, very similar to the Loch Ness. And the last one that we'll think is we were talking about the dinosaurs before. There is the Barrenjaw. Like in the Australian outback, there are still many reportings of people saying that there are living dinosaurs in our outback, which 100%. Is really, really interesting. There's been a few conflicting descriptions of this giant creature. So there are documented sightings from the 1950s. So it walks on two legs, almost like a 20th century T-Rex. So basically it's like a T-Rex. The Aboriginal people call him Old Three Toes. And they say that he's a nocturnal reptile that feasts on native animals like cattle and stuff. And that is some of kind of like the stories of the farmers and stuff when they've seen this thing, that these creatures come in and take their cattle, and they've seen them taking their cattle and hunting their cattle. So more recent investigations, they are said to believe that the lower outback between South Australia and the Northern Territory is home to a large lizard called the parenti, which can grow up to 3 meters in length and devour large animals like goats. They're saying that there's been no real sightings of old three toes in about 40 years. So they're saying he's either died or he's become extinct, but there are other sightings of dinosaur-looking creatures. I mean, like, honestly, the lizards here are just insane.
Yeah. And we actually did a YouTube episode which will come out very soon.
Yeah.
And it goes through the connection between the Barrenjoey, which is in northern Queensland, and which is a theropod, and the Murray Lake monster in Papua New Guinea, obviously very, very close, and was an earth bridge over there many years ago when the waters weren't so high. And that was seen and given us a couple of little encounters by our friend Rex and his brother, who was a police officer around the Murray Lake region, and they call him Murray the monster.
Murray the monster. So yeah. So
he is a Barrenjoey. He is a T-Rex essentially.
Yeah. So there's plenty of stuff like this. So looking for similarities, most stuff in the Northern Hemisphere on the same parallel. Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll let you know that there are other sightings and stuff. So yeah, we'll kind of let you know. We've got a few stories here we can send to Tactical Bigfoot. So yeah, it's really, really interesting that these same kind of animals are seen around the world, and it's like it's not just a modern thing. These are sightings that have been going on. Even in Aboriginal rock art, there's dinosaurs, and and people go, oh, that three-horned beast that they're like painted up there is a cow. Well, like, cows don't have 3 horns. It's a triceratops. What are you talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Stegosauruses have spikes on their back. It looks like a stegosaurus.
Yeah, it's not a cow. It's like everything's a cow, or that's a big camel, and you're like, yeah, but camels weren't here back then.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, camels aren't native to Australia. For those of you who don't know, camels are not native to Australia. They were brought here, but we now have the biggest population in the world of wild camels.
Wow.
So yeah.
And it's interesting, like the connection between different land masses, and we know that Australia and New Zealand's on the same continent, underneath Zealandia, and all you have to do is look back onto the episode we talked about the continent of Mu and Lemuria and Atlantis, and it was so interesting looking into that southern hemisphere space and what it used to be like, and the continent sinking and that sort of stuff, and it gives way to these animals or these cryptid creatures being able to migrate, being able to move about like humans did. And we know humans did this because there's evidence around their DNA structure and archaeological dig sites and that sort of stuff, and these similarities. And exactly like Tactical Bigfoot research is saying over on YouTube, that he's checking for these similarities because there are so many similarities. And just because it's northern southern hemisphere doesn't mean there couldn't have been that migration or those connection points with those.
Yeah, I mean, look at you've got so many like seafaring animals that will basically go around the world. So what's to stop these things following? Look at the blue whales. Look at these giant, the bigger creatures. Like your whales and all that kind of stuff will basically go all over the place. So so if they're following a food source, what's to say that these creatures are also following a food source? And like everything else, maybe the reason we're not seeing them as much is because we're basically killing off the food source. It's happening all over the world. If the food that they came in for is now gone, or there's very little of it, they're going to go somewhere else for that food source. So being a bigger animal, they'll probably have to stay out at sea. You know what I mean? So it's it's really, really interesting. But no, I mean, we just had such a blast in Brisbane. Definitely want to go back.
And honestly, if you're ever interested in coming cryptid hunting or anything like that, go to Australia. It's relatively easy to get to. It's relatively cheap as far as the US dollar goes. If you're coming from the northern hemisphere down, stop in Australia. You will absolutely love it. You will have
and DM us, and we can kind of point you in the right direction if you're looking for certain things. Are there, certain places that you'd like to go and see. I mean, we found stuff that we didn't even realize was there, so we're keeping a record of these things. We're like, hey, if you actually go to this area, there's actually these things here also that you can do that so it's pretty cool.
It's really fantastic, and getting boots on the ground, Jules. I mean, it's so hard to just research from a distance and look at these things and not experience it from a heart position, right, when you're standing in front of it. It was like going over to Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and I can't wait for Juliet and I to go into Indonesia or Southeast Asia, and I'm pretty sure we've got some trips in the planning works.
We made a decision on a trip, so it's going to be our next stop here down in the South Pacific, and we're pretty excited about it. And then we've decided that the US is going to be 2026.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a bit of time, and we want to come over. We want to do investigations over there, go and, we've been invited to go and speak at expos and stuff like that. So we will kind of, we've got to plan it right.
It's a big undertaking to get from the north.
Big undertaking.
From the south to the north, right? Yeah, huge undertaking.
So we just got to kind of figure out where everything is. And for our lovely American friends there, if you do go to these expos and stuff, let us know which ones you think are kind of like really, really worthwhile going to. Which, I mean, they all look fantastic, but we will have to limit ourselves and kind of how far we travel. So we just kind of try and figure out whether we're going to do the middle, we're going to do East Coast, West Coast, that kind of thing, because we can't do all three as much as we want to. So we kind of want time in between where we can actually kind of, put boots on the ground and go exploring. But I think we're probably looking more towards the West Coast at this point because there's a bit more activity.
Well, we'll obviously fly into Niagara where tactical Bigfoot.
Oh yes, I was about to say that we will. So that can be our weekend. That can be kind of like our chill weekend.
And then we'll come back through.
Because we're gonna go see Jar. Oh yeah, I mean, there's just so many people like you've got to come here, or maybe we just find a big freaking cabin in the middle and everyone can come to the middle.
That's a great idea. Road trip everyone else.
That would be just amazing. So East Coast. I know there's so much cool stuff like on the East Coast as well, and
so we'll definitely touch base with everyone once we start that planning, and that will probably start happening next year, in the next 6 months or so. But right now we're probably planning phase Indonesia or somewhere around the South Pacific for a big one next year, which will be really, really phenomenal because, man, it's exciting to go and see those ancient structures and that sort of stuff.
We've definitely, that's definitely,
man.
We don't want to come in like full summer. We don't want to come in winter either.
In autumn, which was pretty cool. We wouldn't mind a Halloween over there. Maybe we're coming up.
Oh my god! It would be so cool. So cool. Oh my god! Yeah.
Being it's nearly Halloween.
I don't think you haven't done a Halloween over in the States. We've got we did one in
Canada.
Just
missed it.
Oh my god! And that and Christmas and literally, like over here, certain houses will put up lights, but you'll have like one or two on each street possibly. But oh my god, over there in Canada was just to die for. It was just houses. I just couldn't drive around all night. It was insane. Loved it.
No, it's so awesome. Lots of exciting things coming up. Keep an eye out for Comic-Con stuff coming up. We did a paranormal investigation at Toowong Cemetery as well. So keep an eye out for the video on that coming up as well. And someone's traveling in a month or so.
Everyone's getting a little bit nervous about traveling over to Egypt at the moment. Like, oh no,
it'll be fun.
Still want to go. Yeah, I know. It's just...
I'll be here with you guys. Don't worry.
I don't think I'm about to do lives. I've been told that we can't do lives from the pyramid because there's literally no Wi-Fi out there at all.
I'm
like, damn it.
I hope you learned a little bit about drop bears and some
Yeah.
of the weird little cryptids that are floating around Australia. We might dive a little bit deeper into some of those cryptids in the future. If you're interested in something, send us a little DM and let us know what you want us to cover. Just flick the name on through and we'll jump in there. But otherwise, that was fun. Thanks for
fun. I'm
getting
just trying to find what we're doing next month and next week, and I have no
Don't
idea.
know. No, just say don't know.
Okay,
We'll just make it up. We'll just make it
up.
We'll improv it. It'll be fine.
We'll improv it. Oh my
So
God.
we love you guys and girls. Thank you so much for joining us. And
Bye. Thanks so much.
See you later, girls. Thanks for joining us. Bye. Kiss,
Thanks,
kiss, kiss.
Kelsey.